Boy, that wind out there just sucked your brain out. I need a cloth to clean this. And then I need my little bitty paintbrushes. So I will be right back. To find my green paint. It has somehow magically disappeared. Okay, that is much better. Very glad I waited extra time for that. For whatever reason, it just didn't. Just didn't. So let's get this open. Let's see. Oh man, I feel like a chicken with my head cut off this morning, running around in circles. The goop on the edges of this is somebody painted this at some point with way too much paint to the point where it dripped down. And I chopped off some of it. And then I decided that this was not a piece of furniture and I was not going to worry all that much about whether it was going to be a precision job. I want it to be smooth because it'll make it a lot easier to paint on, but I don't need it to be perfect. So I decided I was making more work for myself. And there are some old drips on here that I decided were not worth fussing about too much. This is not the best brush I've ever used. It sheds a little bit. I hate brushes that shed. But I wasn't going to use my best sash brush to do this sort of stuff. And I went on a quest, which is one of the reasons I was gone for so long, to try and find my box of acrylic paints. And you don't think I could find them, do you? So I have no idea where they went. I'll look again later today. I reorganized a bunch of the storage for art supplies, and I just didn't see it today. Come on, you darn thing. Get off of there. You know, sometimes if you paint over wet paint, you can make it kind of all bubbly and weird. I'm not sure if that's what they did, or something else, or spilled something on it, or oh, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm I'm going to paint this a real quick coat too, at least the part that's got the words on it. Then I'm going to have to chop it up anyway, because the edges are all broken off, and yeah. So this side's not much better than the other one. Gosh, I don't know what they did to that. My guess is they used lumpy paint. Well, I have to admit, most of my sign painting has been either on a small scale, like I did painted signs for my shop originally, when we first started going to events. God bless, I don't know how many years ago. Probably 15, maybe more. Anyway, yeah, so, and I always tried to make them as nice as possible. I couldn't afford professional signs, but I could make it look neat and clean at least. But some of this stuff is pretty shaggy. And part of it I know is the problem is that the boards have been reused multiple times. And I'm sure that does not improve the quality. Haha, let me get you out of here before you shed on somebody. Okay. Now I have another coat on this. And I cannot see the words through there anymore, which was my goal. I always hate it when you can see the, like a shadow of the previous words on a sign. All right, so let's get this guy on the floor. Hammer him closed. I'm a firm believer in closing cans properly. Okay, so that's done. Now, what I'm planning to do with this guy is, the point was to create a sign that has a whiteboard on it. So this section down here is actually going to have a whiteboard attached to it. And the point of that is that when we're changing dates and on the sign, we're not having to fiddle around with all kinds of, you know, the whole concept of making new signs every month is just, I told them, no, I can't do that. I don't have the kind of time that it takes to do that. I'm not a bored housewife. Metal whiteboard. I'm gonna probably pop ribbon it onto here. And if we decide that pop ribbon's not gonna work well enough, we'll just do something else. I could always use some sort of screws or something. But the whole point is to make it really nicely on there, make it look good, make it easy to be able to write whatever we need to on the whiteboard. Yeah, that sort of thing. So. All right, I used to do a lot more photography. I do video now because of the YouTube, but I used to do a lot more still nature photography. But in order to do still nature photography, I have to have the time to go with Henry out to various cool places and take pictures. And yeah, there just hasn't been that time. We're fighting with the weather because this wind is just abysmal. And we're fighting with all the things that keep coming up. You know, oh, well, they couldn't get your prescription straightened out, so now you have to go down on another day. And, oh, well, they're out of the medication. They should have told you that, but they didn't. So it's not like they just need to wait 20 minutes for them to put it in the bottle. No, they don't have any. And that sort of stuff I know happens everywhere. But for us, you know, you're driving half hour, 45 minutes to the closest pharmacy one way. And that's at highway speeds. That's at 65 miles an hour, you know, so yeah. But I am going to say when this is done, yay, that I have done my bit for God and Country on this one. Henry spent a bunch of time trying to clean this metal up before we went to use it, because it had been painted over so many times that it was very lumpy, and it also had the stuff was knocked out of it. This is an old street sign that somebody got at some point. You can see where all the holes are. They would be anchored to, you know, a pole right here. And the good thing about that is it's very heavy duty. The bad thing about it is God knows how many times it's been used, and it's all banged up. So spent a bunch of time unbanging it up, and spent a bunch of time sanding it to try and, probably should have just stripped it down to start with. It would have been easier. But we didn't realize, you know, sometimes you get into a project and you're like, well, it'll be fine. And then as you're going on, you're like, well, that wasn't fine. Because our area really needs local cooperation. We're very, what I would call it, a house divided. Lots of different politics and religions and all that kind of stuff that don't want to cooperate with one another. And that's most unfortunate because we're too small to be fussing around like that. And that's one of the things that we try and talk about when we talk about people moving out to the country. You know, some areas are very open-minded. Not here, for sure. I wouldn't say very open-minded. I would say, in general, rural areas are less open-minded than urban areas. But some areas can be very closed to people who are not the correct religion or the correct color. This is good enough. It'll show from a distance. If you look at it super up close, it is not perfect. And I can live with that. So, I don't usually say that. I am usually fussier than that. But I'm squishing this in between all the other things I have to do. So I declare it's good enough. All right, let's get you over there so it's dry. Get you on here so I messy can. I should clean it, no, I'm not going to, because I have other things to do. Oops, got paint on the fingers. I'm usually pretty good about that. I'm the kind of person who can paint a lot and not wind up with much paint on them. Okay, there we go. Now, that will dry. I have, let's see, I'm going to put them, oh, there. I haven't taken the frame off of this completely yet, but I have I'll take the rest of this frame off, and I'm going to actually lift off the metal that's on here, because it's a thin sheet of metal, and it'll go right here like that, and it'll be attached, and then we could say, you know, general meeting, board meeting, whatever dates and times and stuff.